Hi, everybody, and welcome to tonight's information webinar about the Department of Computing. My name's Fiona Kelly. I'm LYIT Schools Engagement and RPL Officer, and tonight we're going to hear from our academic staff members. We're also going to hear from current LYIT students in our Department of Computing, and we're going to be hearing from a recent graduate and former LYIT student, Pádraig O'Donnell, about his experience post-graduation at LYIT. So tonight we're going to get straight into it, and we're going to start with a welcome from Thomas Dowling, Head of Department of Computing.
Thank you very much, Fiona, and welcome. I'm very pleased to be here tonight speaking to you. So to give an overview of the Department of Computing and a few other little talking points, it's an interesting department. There's approximately 1,000 students in it. Now, we pride ourselves on being kind of a small and intimate department, so you wonder how do we do that with 1,000 students. And there's about 500 students in Letterkenny itself, and that's about 400 students who are Irish, and then about another 100 students who come from approximately 15 other countries around the world. The willingness of people to come from the other side of the world to study with us, I think, tells us about the quality of the courses and the reputation. And most of that is driven by other students who've been here, who've done the courses, and who have had a really, really good story. And the positive nature of their story has encouraged other students to come and join us. We have about 500 students from around Ireland who are mature learners who do online courses. And again, it's a testament to the reputation of the department that you have people from almost every significant company in Ireland who have done courses with us. And, I mentioned Amazon and Google and IBM and Deloitte and Touche and stuff like that. But, the list is endless. But the core thing is really sort of the 400 students that we have who are Irish students who are primarily on our undergraduate degree programs. And we have 4 or 5 with kind of 5 primary degree courses, which we'll talk about as we go on, and you'll get to meet some of the students and some of the lecturers who are involved in those courses: games, security, the applied computing, general BSc, and the 3-year honours degree in computer science. And you'll hear more about all of those as we go on. We also have a range of courses from kind of on the postgraduate end of things, from masters to PhD. So we have a whole range of thought programs, and we have a whole range of PhD programs. And again, we would have people coming from all over the world to study with us and do their doctoral research, which is the highest level of qualification that it's possible to achieve. And the advantage of that is that you have a really, really strong campus. You have really interesting staff who've worked around the world, who've worked in lots of different companies, who have a really, really, really wide range of experience. And they bring all of that to the courses that you'll be studying on. And to my mind, that gives us an advantage which most other colleges really just can't equal. It means that in courses like applied computing, you can do study breaks in China, and we've had quite a few students who've done that. You can do study breaks funded by Erasmus in other European countries where you can study through the medium of English, because English is the international medium for computing. If you speak English as your first language, you can travel all over the world and work in computing without difficulty. And it's a hugely international qualification. Not that you need to travel, there's loads of work in Ireland as well. You all know the things about computing. It's very well paid, the working conditions are good, there's lots of work always. I came out of college in 1991, and I think I was unemployed for 3 weeks and never unemployed again. I just went from one job to the next job. And, that's a pretty common thing for computing graduates, because the more experienced you get, the more in demand you are. So computing is a great career. The only thing I would say is that people have a kind of a misapprehension about computing. They think of it as just being a nerd in a room programming. And computing is really kind of around teamwork. It's around working with other people. It's kind of a social, engaged, dynamic kind of thing. There's thousands of different types of jobs that you can do. And you really should never worry about, will I find a job that interests me? Maybe the first job won't be exactly your thing. Maybe the second job won't be exactly your thing. But, give yourself time, give yourself a bit of experience. You will find something that I absolutely guarantee it. So that was my, I guess, crash course in the Department of Computing. As I say, you'll hear more about it from the others shortly. And now we're going to go over to hear from Amy.
So my name's Amy Campbell. I'm a third-year student of the Applied Computing course here in LYIT, and I did my Leaving Cert here in Letterkenny, up in Loretto Convent, before coming here. Whenever I was coming into the college, I knew that I wanted to do a computing course, but I didn't necessarily know which one. So I actually remember quite well coming in here on the open day in 2018 and coming into one of these computing rooms and asking one of the lecturers a bunch of questions, being like, oh, what do you do in this course? What do you do in that course? And I knew I wanted to do something programming centric. So after coming out of that room, I had all my answers, and I knew leaving the campus that day that I wanted to do the applied course, because not only did it have all the stuff that I wanted to do with programming, but I was told there would be a good bit of variety as well, so that definitely interested me. So going into the fourth year of my course, one of the things I'm most excited about is the research project that we get to do. So everybody in our course gets to pick out a different area of computing, whether it be like a different kind of technology or just some information that's been developed on and researched, and we get to pick it out and do a research assignment around it. So that's been something that I've been putting a lot of thought into as to what I'm actually going to do. But I am actually looking forward to keeping up the work that I've put in from the other years of my course and building up the programming languages that I've learned and keeping those skills fresh so that I can actually keep pushing them into my skill set going forward. I would say definitely, yeah. I mean, I wanted to come in here and do computing or programming or something along those lines, and I have to say I've actually been really happy with the course. I mean, there's loads of different things both within my course and on campus at LYT that I've got involved in and I've had a lot of fun with, and I feel like I've really learned a lot of different things and got to do a really wide variety of things in my course, so I would say yes, personally. To me, what's really special about the program that I'm doing is the variety of stuff that we've been able to cover. I mean, I wanted to come in and do something programming oriented, that was all I really knew, but I've actually been really happy and surprised with how much we've covered. It's not even as if we've just done one programming language, we've done multiples and learned loads of different pieces of software, but we've also done things like data analytics and networks and security and website development and so many other different things. And then on top of that then, I found that our class actually gets on really well. So a lot of the time we'll be in the same room as each other doing a programming exercise, and if somebody gets stuck, we're always helping each other out, and there's really good communication, not even just between the students in the lecture, but between the students and students. So both of those things have actually made it really fun and really entertaining, and I've really enjoyed my course because of it. Definitely. I mean, one of the biggest pieces of advice I give to maybe like incoming students on open days or first year students even going to other colleges is to get involved with the student life wherever they're going. Because even here at LYIT, I mean, we have this clubs and societies, which I'm really involved in. We have the class representatives program, which I love taking part in, the student ambassadorship, which is something I really, really enjoy. You get to meet so many new people because of it. And I would say I've actually met the vast majority of my friends in the IT through doing these clubs and societies and getting involved in different things. So I know that it can seem very, very tough to balance the work from your course and actually getting out and meeting new people, but finding that balance is really important, and you'll meet so many new people and learn so many great things because of it. So once I finish up my course and hopefully get my degree, I kind of would like to go out and find a job. There's loads of different well-known computing companies here that have headquarters and bases and stuff like that in Letterkenny, and thanks to doing my course, even just from the first 3 years of it, I've found areas of computing that I'm quite good at and that I quite enjoy. So hopefully in the future I would love to go out and get a job in one of those areas and hopefully take what I've learned in my course and actually apply it to the work that I do.
Okay, so we're now joined by Helena Gibson. Helena is one of the lead lecturers in the Applied Computing program. So, Helena, it was fantastic to hear from Amy Campbell. Now, just to be
Yeah,
clear, I suppose, about Amy, Amy is a pretty special student as well. She's very
she's
involved in the student ambassador team. She's just
yeah, she's
fantastic.
great. Yeah, she is. She's great. I taught her in first year. Yeah, she's great. She gets really involved in everything. She's very good now. Yeah,
Yeah, and I
makes all
suppose
the
as a
difference.
lecturer, it really does. Like, as a lecturer on the program, can you tell us why this program is so popular, Helena?
Well, it's funny actually. It's the same answer as that Amy had. It's a variety of the modules, because there's such a wide variety in every year that just gives the students such a good idea of what computing is about. There's so many different aspects of computing. Computing there's programming in it, but it's so much more than just programming, and it gives the student just a good taste of all the different areas they're going to get in. Thomas mentioned earlier that there's so many different jobs, and there is, and within all the different years within you apply computing, there's just so many different areas. I mean, like, I've worked in different areas as well, and you can see where, you try and explain to the student that it's not just programming. There's lots more to do, and you'll
Yeah.
find that by find what's your strengths, and that's what we intend to do on the course. Find the students' strengths and help them get the job that they're looking for at the end. What they love to do.
Yeah. And what's great about the program is it's a level 8 program as well. So it's a 4-year option. And a student wouldn't need to be coming into the program with a background in computing, maybe just an interest in computing if they were looking at the program.
That's right. Yeah, there is a few students that I know that have come in and they've had no background at all, and they're flying it. They really put the effort in, and you can see it in how they're coming through each year. Yeah.
Yeah. And tonight's session will show all of the prospective students our level 8 and our level 7 options. So what kind of modules would a student expect to cover in the program, Helena?
Well, there's so many, like I was saying. So first year is just so varied, and it just gives a really good taste. So you've got operating systems, computer architecture, and math there. It's kind of the strong foundation of knowledge that they'll learn for the future years. And then after that, they're looking at different cutting edge technologies like web fundamentals, cloud, mobile, robots, and that's all just in first year. And then second year, they've got networks, they get databases, interaction design, the look and feel of your, say, if your website or whatever, or your mobile app. They learn different types of scripting. And then third year is just building on what Thomas was saying earlier. They get an option if they would like to. They can opt to go on an international placement for the first semester. So they can go to the EU, or pre-COVID, we had a few students that went to China and they had a great time. They had some interesting and fun experiences. We heard some stories, so they had a great time. And
Yeah.
so they look at all the different things. They look at the client side, server side development. It's really is taster of everything. And then Amy was on about data analytics, so that's in third year as well. They look at data analytics, and then you get to an option to, you have to, there's a team project module where you work as with other students in your course, and you develop a project that you as a team decide on, and you work through, you bring the idea to the table, you set up your different requirements, and then you build it yourself. And then fourth year, then, as Amy was saying, is your individual research project, and
Mhm.
that takes up 2 different modules, and you've got DevOps. So these are all like the buzzwords of the industry at the moment, and they're all there in that program.
Yeah, and Amy speaks so passionately about the program, so she does. And
She
I know,
does, yeah.
having worked with Amy in the student ambassador team, she herself is working for an American company now, part-time transcribing on
Oh,
behalf of
right,
them. So
very good.
yeah, so she herself is just like really enjoying a pretty good career while also studying full time as an undergraduate student. One question that comes up a lot is like, how many hours per week would a student expect to cover in terms of hours in the program, such as applied computing?
Well, in first you're going to look at it about 24 hours you'll do each
Mhm.
week, between all the different modules, and at similar hours then going forward through each of the years.
Okay. And why is the Department of Computing's program in applied computing good? Why would it be a choice for somebody if they're watching this evening?
I think it goes back to the variety of modules, and it's all the relevant, your cutting edge technologies. And as well, there's a lot of like a lot of the lecturers, as myself, and you'll see a few others, they have all industry experience. So they're not just, teaching you what they've learned. they're on the job, they've done it, they know what they're talking about. So you're getting, the best of both worlds.
Yeah, so the mixture of that kind of background from industry as well, and the use of emerging technologies really makes the
Oh,
program stand out.
sure, yeah, definitely, yeah. And there's a lot of small classes as well, so the lecturers know the students and they care about the students, and I that does make a big difference to the students. And we've got peer mentoring, and then there's a module in first year that called personal and professional development, and it helps to the students to get to know each other. They do go off on bowling activities and quizzes and so on.
Mhm.
It just helps them all bond, and that's why I believe that they all love the course.
Yeah, that sense of community. Well, Helena,
Yeah,
thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're now going to
you're very
head over to
welcome.
Molly.
Thanks for asking.
Thank you. And we're going to head to Molly, and Molly's going to share her student story of studying the level 8 in computer science.
Hi, I'm Molly. I'm a first-year student doing honors degree in computer science in Lyit. I knew I wanted to do computer science, but I wasn't sure to do which one. But this course is only 3 years, and I get an honors degree, and I thought that's perfect, so I chose this one. I like everything about this program. All the lecturers are really kind and nice to me. They answer my questions really patiently, and my classmates are kind, and all the classes are interesting, and I love them. I'm looking forward to learn more, to widen my knowledge, and to get back to the campus. I have never been here actually, so I'm looking forward to meet my classmates in person. It's programming. I wanted to do programming for a long time, but I never got to do it. This course really teach me how to do it, and now I can make small programs with my own. Yes, I would. The past year was really amazing and fantastic, and I would definitely do this again. What we learn here is all very practical and useful, and I think it will really help me in life in general and get me a good job. I want to do a master's degree in data science and maybe become a data analyst. They should definitely do it, like it's really nice, and they should listen to teachers and do their homework. That is.
So Gary, you're well known in the, I suppose, post-primary schools in the region because you've done a lot of work, especially for the Leaving Cert computer science program. And one thing I do want to highlight that the program that Molly was referring to in terms of her own time is our 3-year level 8 honours degree in computer science. So this is a really special program, and it has been designed in tandem with the Leaving Certificate program. Isn't that right?
Yes, exactly that, Fiona. We set out at the start, myself and a team in the computer department of computing. John Connan, who you'll be talking to later, was heavily involved in this as well too. And we met with some of the key stakeholders in that. Porrick O'Donnell, who'll be talking shortly, as well too, who taught Leaving Cert computer science in one of the pilots. There were 40 pilot schools in Ireland. Porrick in St. Eunan's and Gavin Gorman in Abbey ran the pilots, and myself and John and the team at the department investigated with them first to see the potential for a degree in this field, because for the first time ever we were going to take graduates in to a degree with an understanding of computing behind them. Normally you get students coming into, a science degree, for example, and they've done chemistry or physics or biology at Leaving Cert, but with computing that didn't happen. So the first time for this to happen was last year, and so myself and John and the team sat down with Porrick and and Gavin and Abby and discussed what would be good in the program, and then we also discussed with students about what they wanted. There was a big push from students about artificial intelligence and machine learning being involved in it, so we got that into the module. Porrick and Gavin talked about data science being a big part of it, and they felt was important, so we got that into it. We also then talk to our industry partners about what they would like to see, what kind of skills they would like our graduates to come out with. So we talked to Primeric and CETA and Optum locally here about what they would want, and what kind of skill set they would want a student coming out with. And we designed the program then around that. But the idea was that students coming out with Leaving Cert Computer Science, if they went into our normal program, our normal programs were designed for students who had no background in computing.
Yeah.
So if they were coming in with an understanding of programming, for example, they would be sort of spinning in the mud a bit in the first few months to get up to speed. So we designed this specifically for them, looking at their curriculum for Leaving Cert Computer Science, looking at the key areas that they focused on and covered in detail. And we built on that then. So we wrote our syllabus specifically to work on what they had learned and build on that then. So that allowed us to build that 3-year degree then out of that.
So that's what makes it a 3-year program then. It's really a building block from the Leaving Certificate and program. So for anybody that's watching this evening that is currently coming through that Leaving Certificate cycle, or has studied ICT technology in the Northern Ireland setting, or maybe is a mature student that has a flair for computing, or maybe coming through the PLC FE route, then they would really be well placed to look at this Level 8 3-year program.
Yeah, exactly. They can get through this with an honours degree in 3 years. We're in the process of designing a bespoke master's for them as well too. So potentially you could be leaving LYT with a master's in computer science in 4 years.
That's fantastic. And we do have that in another department, I think, in the space of accounting, 3-year, and then an MA as well. So that's brilliant to hear in terms of it. So what would a student cover in terms of modules in the 3-year program?
Yeah, well, we have a few bespoke ones that I talked about that the students and the teachers in teaching the Leaving Cert Computer Science asked for. We also have your typical computer science modules as such, but we also have other modules like algorithmic programming. We have academic and technical writing with software implementation, mobile app development's a part of it. In the final year, they'll do a final year project and so on as well too. But although it is bespoke, the students still get immersed in the entire department. So they're not in one program on their own. They also share modules with other students. So algorithms, for example, they would share that with all other second year students, so they would be in that along with them. Their 4th year project would be shared with other students, so they'd be sitting in lecture halls and classrooms with other students doing applied computing or BSc computing or other degrees. So they're not just in their own group in that too.
Yeah, so they get to mix in between the other programs that we offer. So why would someone choose this program, this 3-year Level 8 honours degree in computer science?
Well, I think it's that idea of being able to come out early with a 3-year degree. That's the biggest selling point. It's a bespoke program that's designed from the ground up for them. As we said, we spoke to students in St. Eunan's and Abbey, who are the 2 pilots that ran it. There's 9 schools across Donegal now looking to deliver Leaving Cert Computer Science, so there'll be a lot of students coming through, and nationwide there's obviously more. But it's the job opportunities that are there too, Fiona. In Ireland as a whole, it's been a fantastic success story in Ireland about IT and how popular it is. We've have over 300 overseas companies based in Ireland, including 8 of the top IT companies in the world. We're a real success story worldwide, and we get these companies down. They feed into our degrees and our masters as well too. And indeed, we're starting on our programmatic review journey in the next semester, and industry come in and they tell us what they want our graduates to look like when they come out. They want students with a mature understanding of the technologies and job-ready graduates. And I feel that's what we deliver. Molly sort of alluded to that too. The kind of applied learning approach that
Yeah,
we give is something that we feel really proud of as well too. And
absolutely.
modules like programming, they get 8 hours a week at programming specifically because it's something that we know that industry wants, and it's something that programming is something you learn by doing, and we
Yeah.
put so much hours into it, and contact hours with your lecturer in class doing practical work that you wouldn't see in some other organizations, that kind of contact time and that
Yeah.
real applied learning, as I say, that lets students out, that they're job ready to walk into industry.
Yeah. And again, that link with industry that's at LYIT, and I suppose it's that thing that differentiates us from larger institutions is the opportunity to connect with some amazing big players in the space of
Yeah.
computing. Like, as you mentioned, 18 out of 20 of the leading tech companies in the world are based in Ireland, and they employ a lot of LYIT grads. So that broad program really opens doors. So, Gary, thank you so much for giving an overview of the computer science program. We're now going to head over to Luke, who's going to tell us his story about studying the BSc in computer games development.
My name is Luke Hannigan, and I did my Leaving Cert at Dade College, Raphoe. When it came time to choose a college course, I seen the computer game course and LYT's list, and I knew immediately that that was for me. I liked the idea of turning my passion for video games into possibly someday a career through the course. I really like the creative side of it, getting to make video games with the code you write yourself, or getting to make prototypes for board games was really enjoyable and really rewarding too when you create it yourself. Probably the board games workshop was really good. Constantly creating different prototypes for board games over things like 10 weeks, and it's really enjoyable. You learn a lot from it too. The campus feels more relaxed compared to some other campuses I visited, and just the atmosphere seems a lot less intimidating. You feel like everyone's your equal, and it's just a really good place to go. My plan is to find a job in the industry, get some experience, and then maybe one day start my own game development studio. Be ready to put in the work. It takes a lot of time and effort to learn how to make a video game, but when you do learn it, it's very rewarding then. Creating stuff with your own knowledge and your own code, it's very rewarding.
So thanks to Luke for sharing his story there, computer games development. So Luke is going to be one of the industry leaders now. He's going to set up a company, and I have no doubt that he will. Having connected with Luke last week. So John, we're going over to you now as a lecturer in the computer games development program. I suppose it would be interesting to hear why this program is so popular amongst applicants, and particularly the Leaving Cert cohort seem to be very interested in the computer games development program.
Well, of course, Fiona, the games industry is massive at the moment. The worldwide industry of games is worth $160 billion last year. And if you compare that to the global film industry, which was worth about $100 billion, that just shows you the scale of it. And it expanded by roughly 20% during 2020 because of COVID, because everybody was at home looking for different forms of entertainment. So there's a massive market out there. It's huge. It's becoming bigger and bigger. And it's very, very popular among students who are interested in game development in general. And we do have plenty of those. We have plenty of people that are passionate about playing video games, who are a bit handy when it comes to technology. They might have done a little bit of programming at school. They might have messed around with Scratch and created their own games. And this course suits that type of person who's curious about not only playing games, but about how games work and about making games.
Okay, so the element you mentioned there about programming, would someone have to have done Scratch or basic programming to enter this program?
No, absolutely not. Of course, any computing experience will help, but it's definitely not a prerequisite. We take students from basic principles. When they come into us on day one, they're doing their first Hello World program where they're just printing a piece of text on screen. But they do move on fairly quickly. There is quite a lot of programming on this course, as you would imagine, because you're going to want to come out of it with the ability to develop a computer game. So it's definitely not a prerequisite, but some interest in the area is always helpful. But we definitely don't require any prerequisites like that.
Yeah, and then you mentioned about that, I suppose, the idea of then designing games and the kind of concept development. Can you talk a wee bit more about that and what students will cover?
Okay, so it's primarily a computing degree, and you're going to be working in the computing industry at the end of it. So you do share a lot of modules with our other courses. That's a feature of our department that we like to put our computing students in together and mix them up a little bit and put them in teams from different disciplines and things like that. But you'll primarily be doing a lot of programming, but you'll also be doing some game design there as well. Luke mentioned a couple of modules on board game design and computer game design there. So that's coming up with ideas for games, stripping it down to its most basic principles, coming up with an idea, being able to implement that on a page before you take it onto the computer at all. So we did quite a lot of that. We've two sort of main streams on it. We've got a game development stream where they do a lot of work in games engines like Unity. They create mobile games. They cover middleware applications like that. And then we have the sort of the design stream whereby they're designing the story for games or they're designing the rules for games. So it's a combination of both those streams and the traditional computing modules that they need, because of course they're going to be creating computer games at the end of it. So they need to have good solid knowledge of computing and technology.
It actually sounds very exciting and engaging program as well for someone with an interest or a flair in that space. Folks, if any of you have any questions, because there are some questions coming in on our Zoom platform right now, just pop them into the chat function and we'll get your questions at the end in our Q&A session in the last 5 to 10 minutes of tonight's session. So in terms of the computer games industry in Ireland, is it a growing sector? Are there employment opportunities, John?
Absolutely. Over the last 4 or 5 years, a number of different companies have located into Ireland. You've got EA Sports in Galway. You've got Hypixel Studios have just located to Derry, actually. They're just up the road, and they offer a range of jobs, both in-house, and you can do it online as well from home. Although people are probably sick of sitting at home at this stage. So there's plenty of computing companies within the country. In the UK as well, it's a big growth sector. So just across the water there's plenty of opportunities. But one thing that happens with a lot of our computing graduates, actually, and Luke alluded to it there, they tend to take their first job in the general industry, maybe in financial services, or in a company like Google or Amazon, because they're very much in demand because of their programming skills. They do a lot of programming with us, which is very, very marketable. And a lot of them end up going in there initially and maybe working on their games at the weekends and in the evenings with a view to starting their own studio. So that's a definite career path that a lot of our students take.
Well, that's actually really interesting to know, because sometimes there's this perception that if you pick a niche program, that you're almost going to be pigeonholed into that industry. So just to be clear then, that the level 7 option in computer games development has the opportunity for people to be able to go into all aspects of the computing industry and not just the specialist area.
Absolutely. A lot of our graduates have ended up working in just general computing. They're very much in demand. They make big money in it. They've got very rewarding careers. Some of them go on and they produce their own projects and games, and they work their way back into the games industry, having had a couple of years' experience within a company. But others are quite content to stay within the computing industry. So maybe that's one just for the parents to note, if there are any parents watching. If your child's talking about going to study game development, it doesn't mean that they're going to be in games for the rest of their lives. They may well be picked up by the likes of Primerica or Google or Amazon or Microsoft to work in the general computing industry, because we're very careful to give them an all-rounded set of skills so that they can work across the industry.
Yeah, and just to be clear as well to people that are watching this evening, this program is a level 7 program, the computer games development program, but there is a plus 1 year top up. So you can have your honours degree in this program area within the 4 years as a 3+1 as well. So John, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're going to now head over to Ryan Patton, who's going to share his story on the BSc in computer security and digital forensics.
Hi, I'm Ryan Patton. I'm currently a second year in the BSc Computer Security and Digital Forensics course at Lyit. I previously did my Leaving Cert in Loretto Community School in Milford, and I did that in 2019. I went to the Lyit Open Day and I saw the different modules that they were running, and I always kind of had a good interest in computing, and it seemed like a good variety of modules that I thought I would like. And I knew that there was a massive lack of supply in cybersecurity workers, so I thought I'd be able to get a job easy enough, and that's probably a deciding factor for me when I went to choose it from a CAO. Probably the variety of the modules, and mainly the hacking modules. Like, it varies a lot. Like, you start that in first year, you do one module on ethical hacking introduction, and then you go on second year and there's a web app security module, and you learn about the different ways that websites and companies can be breached, and it's a very interesting topic. Well, I would really love to work for a company like Microsoft or Amazon Web Services or Google. And before COVID, I thought I would have to move away. But now, because of COVID and the fact that remote working is now the common thing, I would really like to work from home in Donegal. I would say if you're the type of person that would happily spend hours on the computer just to pass the time, I would say, even if you think you've never did any programming or anything in security, I would say you would find the course interesting and you would enjoy it.
So I don't think there's ever been a time where cyber security, computer security, and digital forensics was as topical as it is now. And I'm joined this evening by John McGarvey, one of the lead lecturers in this program. So John, you're very welcome. Perfect timing
Thank you,
in
Fiona.
terms of discussion around this program, computer security and digital forensics. So let's talk a little bit about the program. It's a 3-year level 7 bachelor degree. Can you tell me a bit about the program?
Yeah, well, just if we talk about also just why people are interested in the program, first of all, I think Ryan said a few things there, but I suppose it's the recent attacks, the pipeline attack in the US, which disrupted all of the fuel on the East Coast, and also our own HSE attack. People are interested in finding out, how did these attacks occur? Why did they occur? What kind of data are they stealing? And people are just very interested in the analytical side of cybersecurity.
Yeah, and I suppose because of what's happened in the media and the exposure of this space, it's probably a very good time to be considering the area of computer security and digital forensics, because there's going to be a demand.
Yeah, I suppose to use as more modern term, cybersecurity and digital forensics, people are again interested because of it's a very it's a wide-ranging set of skills that you need. You might start off with ethical hacking modules, which is the area that I teach on. Then you move on to risk assessment, deep packet inspection, then web application security, and so on. So you've got all these modules they have a theme. They're interlinked, and they develop the skills from the students from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. We also have another stream there as well, the digital forensics stream, and that is really looking at extracting evidence, preserving evidence, and again going through a whole suite of analytical skills again from year 1, 2, and 3. Again, I don't teach on the digital forensics myself, but there's a team of lecturers there that do.
Yeah, and Ryan mentioned about the hacking modules. I suppose in terms of clubs and societies as well, there's a really active and vibrant set of societies that are attached to computing as well at LYT. So that student life mix as well is very important. I know there's an ethical hacking society,
Sure.
and you would lead out on the hacking modules, isn't that right?
I do. Well, the Ethical Hacking Society was set up just over 10 years ago. And I remember I took the first group of students to what's known as Capture the Flag, or a CTF, in Dublin in 2011. And they thoroughly enjoyed it. One of those people actually ended up, once they graduated from the CSTF course, they actually went and set up their own business. And that was Philip Close,
Wow.
and he set up a company called Sakura Consulting in Belfast, Northern area.
Yeah.
And he's doing very well. He's looking to actually recruit more staff in that area. And that's all
fantastic.
because of sort of ethical hacking and, the digital forensics element
Yeah.
of this cybersecurity course.
And that's funny, that's 10 years ago you're talking about that. So at LYIT,
Yes.
very much at the cusp of that, way back even a decade ago, ethical hacking was happening at LYIT. So very much at the forefront, and you find that across the Department of Computing, really at the forefront of it all. In terms of then just hours per week, in terms of the program in computer security and digital forensics, what kind of hours per week would we be talking about in terms of commitment from the student?
I think starting off in year one, it's around about 24 hours a week. Again, as Gary said, about 8 hours of that is programming, but then there's a whole suite of supporting the cybersecurity professionals. So we've got databases, we've got networking, we've got operating systems and computer architecture, and all of these are essential computing skills the graduate needs. Now it's very important to highlight as well the other programming modules that they do in year 2 and year 3, and specifically, I would pay attention to the secure programming modules. They're essential again for any cybersecurity professional.
And where would graduates end up from this program, John? And again, it's a 3+1 option as well. We do have the 1 year top up for the level 8, but where would graduates end up?
Most of them would end up working in a cybersecurity team in what's known as a SOC, a Security Operations Center. So there's a various range of roles there. They might be doing something related to risk assessment or threat intelligence, which is really analyzing and collecting data to find out, let's say, like the HSE attack, where was it coming from? What tools were used? What technologies? What lines of code? And then from the other end of that, once you've developed that and you've analyzed that, then you can come up with a suite of, controls or countermeasures to stop that attack from happening again. Okay. So again, we have some skills like that, and then you also have other skills, let's say, in wider threat management and incident response and so on. There's actually a very good resource if anyone's looking for it, and we're heavily involved in a group called Cyber Ireland, and their website has a fantastic resource of all of the different types of cybersecurity jobs that are available, and they update the jobs and so on a daily basis as well. So it's a very useful resource, and our students are actually members of Cyber Ireland as well.
Okay, and just kind of finally, John, what sets the Department of Computing and this program apart from other institutions?
I suppose because we've been running it for so long, since 07, 08 is when I first delivered my first cybersecurity modules. And so we have an awful lot of past graduates there. In fact, we have a whole LinkedIn, what we call it, alumni there. And there's an awful lot of people part of that. So what we do is I get my past graduates in to do guest talks and stuff on various different topics, whether it be risk assessment, whether it be, threat analysis or pen testing or any of those skills. Like in the last semester, we had Philip Close in doing a talk on how he found the course and how he set up his own company and why and so on. So.
Okay, well, that's brilliant again. And it's going back to that connection with industry too, John, that was mentioned by John and by Gary and also by Helena when we were discussing the initial programs in the lead up to our talk with you today. So again, thanks so much for joining us this evening. We're now going to head over to Anna. All right, and we're going to hear from Anna Carolyn, who's going to share her story about her time in the BSc in computing.
Hi, I'm Anna Carolyn. I'm 22. I previously studied in St. Columba's College in Stranorlar and did my Leaving Cert 2016 and came into LIT in 2016 and graduated from there with a BSc Honours in Computing degree in 2019. The main thing that attracted me to the BSc in computing course was the opportunities of having a computing degree as your foundation degree. The flexibility and the ability to change your mind if, say, you don't like to write lines of code, or you don't like security, or you don't like networking. There's so many other opportunities within the area itself. I wasn't 100% sure of what I wanted to do as well before I applied to the course, and I think that it's probably better suited to people like me who are not 100% sure that they want to be a nurse or a guard, and they come in. It's a great degree to have, to come from any other background. You can come into computing. I've actually noticed a lot of people from my work now at the minute have come from different backgrounds into computing, and they've come through an assured skills program. So if it's something that you're not sure about at the start, computing is definitely a foundation degree worth having, I would say. Okay, what I liked most about the program was the ability to just have a chat with your lecturer. The learning on a very personal level, I think I definitely took for granted. Just having another grad on with me who's come from a big uni, I think it's Queen's, and he never had that interaction that I would have got when I studied. If I wasn't happy with something on the course, I could just speak up and say, listen, could you maybe change something here or here? And they'd listen, absolutely no problem. The involvement with the students on every level as well. I think LYIT, especially the Department of Computing, likes to bring in schools and have loads of events, and what I would suggest as well as a student is get involved in them and get involved in the UCO competitions, because it makes your personal skills or personable skills way more wide when it comes to the working world, especially dealing with business people and people of higher and lower abilities in computing. Okay, what I think makes LYIT different is the ability, again, to have a conversation with your lecturer, as casual as it is. You're able to bond with your peers more because it's a smaller group. You're able to bounce ideas off one another. There are no silly questions. Well, there are silly questions, but everybody's got them. And I think also you have to understand that you're not always going to be the smartest person in the room, or you're not going to be the one that wants to write all the lines of code in the world. And I think it's accepting that. LYIT accepts, all kinds of abilities, whatever you want to do in the course, whatever you want to do within your class, your modules and stuff. I think it's just, the opportunities are there from LYIT. Okay, since I graduated, I got a job as a graduate software engineer in September in a place called Aflac NI. They've only come to Ireland actually in 2018, so they're quite new and not many people know what they're about, so I won't really get into it. So I've come in as a software engineer. I'm also doing my part-time master's in data analytics, and the company's supporting it, which is nice. Again, I'll go back to the ability to change your mind. I don't want to be a software developer forever. I got into data analytics in my last year. I think it was just one module, and I just fell in love with it, and it made me really want to pursue that. But obviously coming in as a software engineer was the best bet, and the company, and I think it says a lot for the company, and probably most companies would say the same, where as long as you're in the door, show your interest in something, and they'll help you along the way to get there. I actually just today asked my MD, who's on a call with me, about the available dev positions, not just within Aflac but within the States, and he came up with a statistic that it was 256,000 job opportunities for developers alone, and I think in the States, and I just think that that's crazy, because I never thought there was that kind of demand for it. What I would suggest is to find what you're good at, get in there and just have a go and go for it. You're always going to get those people that just come into code, but it's not just about your ability to code or your mathematic ability. It's about, can you communicate with the business? Are you able to take you know, a tech problem and interpret it and, you know, reproduce it as to a business person, somebody who might not have that, you know, tech mind. The computers as well are universal. You know, do you like to travel? Because you can take it with you. You can work from anywhere now, of course. Like with COVID, everybody is working from home anyway. And you also have so many opportunities to pursue your own projects. I think once you have the experience, having the foundation degree, and then once you have the experience, say you don't like to network and you want to start up your own web application, go for it. Because, you know, there's no rules in computing, I don't think. There's nobody telling you, there's nobody over your shoulder saying, no, please don't do this. Like, you can do what you want, take your degree and go and find what you love with it. Yes, student life at LIT was amazing. I loved it. It was probably a bit challenging at the start, being, you know, one of very few girls on my course. But that does actually push you out of your comfort zone at the same time, and you get to know people that you probably wouldn't have ever thought of getting to know, you know, in secondary school, which was nice. I moved out of home in my second year, which was probably the best decision because I got, you know, a bit of independence, a bit of freedom. I was so young. And I would advise that you just put yourself out there for everything. Like, if there's any volunteering events, go for it, because that's how you get to make those connections, you know, with people outside your course, people that you would never come across on a day-to-day basis. I would say go for it. The biggest piece of advice I got, and I still get up to today, is be confident in knowing what you don't know, and just don't be afraid to mess up. Like, you know, have fun with it. Like, try everything. If you don't like, you know, coding, just try security, or don't let one module put you off either, because there's been plenty that I have really struggled with and said, I'm not doing this anymore. But no, I'm so glad that I stuck to it. And I think there is a point where when you reach over that line, probably 2 to 3 years, and you're just like, I love this, I love the people around me, I love the culture that comes with LIT as well, you know, I'd say just go for it.
Well, I had the absolute pleasure of connecting with Anna last week, Mandy, and I honestly think she should be the poster child for all things Department of Computing, because there has never been anybody as passionate about computing as Anna, and she's an absolute pleasure to connect with, because so passionate about computing and her career post-graduation, and she continues to develop and gone into the master's space. So it's a hard act to follow, Mandy, but can you tell people watching, like, why is the BSc in computing so popular?
Well, I suppose, Fiona, like, Anna is the ultimate success story of an LIT student. And I suppose the BSc program, it's an excellent program for students who mightn't have made a decision or mightn't be interested in any particular specific computing discipline. So I suppose the content that we cover in the course is, you know, it's typically required across all aspects of computing. So I suppose it gives students the option, you know, to, I suppose, make a decision and maybe what kind of job role that they would want to, or career path that they would want to take. And as well as that, they can get a degree in 3 years with the option to do the add-on year for the achieve their honours degree.
Yeah. And what's great about the level 7 programs and the level 8 programs, and just to make the distinction, is that the level 7 programs entry requirements tend to be lower than the level 8 entry requirements. So if anybody is watching this today, and I know we've had a question in the Zoom chat, and I may as well just kind of address it now, is do I have to specifically pick a particular course? What's great about the Department of Computing is there are the level 7 choices. You can put them into your CAO options, and you have until the 1st of July to change things around. And then the level 8 choices, you have that list as well, and you can put the level 8 programs that we mentioned, like computer science and applied computing, into your list as well. And the two are separate lists. So when it comes to offers day, and offers day this year is the 7th of September, you can get 2 offers. two separate lists, but the only thing is you can only accept one. So for those who are undecided, look at the level 7s and the level 8s, and this would be the kind of broad computing program, similar to the applied computing almost in the level 8 choices. Isn't that right, Mandy?
Yeah, that's correct, Fiona. Often this program, students is in along with other students that maybe are on the applied course. So there's a lot of modules that's similar, but then there's some modules then that they vary out on their own. Modules like I suppose computer programming would be the core module. Different coding languages such as Java, Python. They do web, mobile app development, database design, database development, other ones, network fundamentals, cloud technologies, and problem solving with robotics. That's always a popular one with students to, I suppose, experiment with the robots.
Yeah. And in terms of then graduates and graduate careers, with it being a broad degree program, the options are really endless, aren't they, in terms of career opportunities?
Oh yeah, of course. There's a vast available options of potential job opportunities. We've had students that you could go on to be a software developer, as I say, database design, data analyst there, as I think Molly, a few of the past students mentioned. The potential is endless, and the jobs is endless. And as we all know, the IT sector is, it's evolving rapidly, and industry's always on the lookout for graduates and all computing disciplines.
Yeah. And then hours wise for the BSc in computing, how many hours in the week would a student expect to be in contact with the likes of yourself, Mandy?
Well, the first year it's usually about 22 or 24 hours contact hours with the lecture.
Okay. And then ordinarily we would be on campus, and we're hopeful as well for a return to campus in September.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And if someone was thinking about this program, why would they choose it?
Well, I suppose just to reiterate there what Anna says, I suppose the variation of both theory and practical skills that's typically required across all aspects of industry. And again, for students that mightn't, they want to keep their options open and maybe make the decision further down the line of the career path that they're going to take, Fiona. So that would be, I suppose, the main reason.
Okay, for taking it. Well, Mandy, thanks so much for joining me. We're now going to move on to another graduate. So Anna, being a graduate from the BSc in computing, we're going to move over and speak with Pádraig, who is now the vice principal and newly appointed vice principal of St. Eunan's College in Letterkenny. And you're very welcome, Pádraig, and thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks a million, Fiona. Good to be here.
And tonight you're going to share your story and your journey kind of from the start, middle, and we'll not say end because it's a continuing journey, but we're going to hear from you about your story so far. So I'll let you take the lead here now, Pádraig, and you can share your story as a graduate of LYIT.
Yeah, sure. I suppose my story is quite a winding one, but I left St. Eunan's College, the school I'm working in now, in '99, and I went straight into LYIT, and I knew from when I was in transition year that I wanted to go to LYIT, and I knew that I wanted to do applied computing. My brother had inspired me to do that, but I think it was just kind of blowing up around that time, and it was just something I loved myself, even in secondary school. So I joined LYIT in '99, and I stayed there till 2003, and I worked my way through the degree. And at that stage, you did the certificate and you added on, you built up to your degree in 4 years. And I did like mobile and satellite communications diploma in there. And I specialised in networking, so that was my love, was all things communication. I just love that side of things, the security, the physical aspect of it as well. So even though I did coding as part of my degree in LYT, I actually only started using coding in the current job I'm in, teaching computer science in St. Eunan's. So when I left LYT, I was very lucky. I got hired by Primerica, or TCS now as they're now known, and I was there for 3 years as a systems engineer. And again, I was hands-on networking. Absolutely loved Primerica. I loved the people there, loved the team. But I suppose I just had itchy feet and I just wanted to see a bit of the world. So I headed off to Australia for a year, as people did at that time. And I suppose the crash was happening too at home. So Australia didn't seem to suffer the same thing. So Australia was a brilliant experience because, again, my degree in computing really opened doors for me there. And in fact, I used it to kind of test as many grounds as I could. I worked 3 different jobs within the year because that was a program that they offered that you could move every 3 months. So I worked in a bank, Rabobank, and I was in their marketing and web development team. I worked for one of the biggest health providers out there, their VHA, and I was a webmaster for those guys. And I worked for Symantec as well, and I was a security consultant for those guys, and we were going into large blue chip companies and kind of assessing their security needs and their setups. And I had the opportunity to stay on in Australia, but I suppose my heart was back in Ireland, and that's just where I wanted to be. And I actually wanted to be in Donegal, and I knew that. So I came back, and almost immediately I was actually hired by LYT, of all people. And I went into LYT as a systems engineer. And that was a permanent position I was in. And I was hired with one of my friends from the same graduating class in LYT. And we looked after the network stuff. And I really enjoyed it. But I think it was I just knew that, having done that work before, I just knew that it wasn't just the path for me. I loved LYT, I loved the people, but the work itself, I just knew that I had done my time in networking and I wanted a new challenge. And I kind of always had my eye on teaching, and I was kind of worried about the whole kind of, like, my only subject was computing, and at that time it wasn't really a subject at Leaving Cert. But I took the risk anyway. I went back, I got some experience at Union's, ended up in Galway doing the PDGM, or the PGDM as it's now called. And came back to St. Eunan's, and that was in 2008 or thereabouts. And I've been working there since, and I've upskilled again a couple of times. I've done professional diplomas in mathematics. I've done leadership courses and things like that. And what that allowed me to do is kind of use the computers as a base, and I ended up doing every possible job relating to computers in the school, whether it be run their website, their social media, their network. I took over their network, and I do all the buying and selling for, so the computer skills really stayed with me throughout my journey. And now I've been appointed vice principal, and a large part of my portfolio in that role is to oversee a lot of the ICT side of things, not just the physical things, but integrating it into our teaching and learning, digital strategies, and so on. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a winding path, but this is where I am now at the moment.
Well, I think what's really interesting about your journey, Pádraig, is the flexibility that a computing degree has given you, and the ability for you to move around when it comes to having this base degree. Would you find that yourself?
Absolutely. And when I think of computing and I think of the skill sets that guys with computers come out with, I teach it there in St. Eunan's, as we were saying, and they're working together in teams all the time, which is every computing job imaginable is teamwork and communication. And then underlying all of that is, of course, problem solving. So, like, the skill sets I left the school with problem solving, or left LYT with, like, problem solving and working in teams. I mean, those things stuck with me through every career. And even though I wasn't sure of myself going into teaching, once I was in, I could see the things that I could bring to the school, apart from my own subject. And those are all things that I got from computing and from my time in LYT.
And if somebody was watching this today, what advice would you give them, Pádraig, in relation to computing? If they have an interest, would you say go for it from your own experiences?
Absolutely. And it's just something you can see the theme running through today there from nearly everybody that spoke about the range of subjects, and there's so many things you can do in computing. And I think what we have to remember is that, computer science is new, but for most people coming up to Leaving Cert, there's computing, and then there's like nursing, and then there's like law and stuff, and these are all distinct areas, but like they mightn't be aware of the depth of computing and the variety, and it's just a huge industry by itself. And I think every single person on the face of the planet could find a place in computing if they were to do it. So my advice, I suppose, is if you go down the route, go in, and I think one of your graduates or your current students was speaking about this, go in with an open mind, because I've got guys saying to me, I want to do machine learning, and they're 17 years old, and I'm like, that's really good, but you're saying that because you might have, it's the hot topic today, and you might have seen it on Google's YouTube channel or something, but you aren't aware of all the options. So when you go in with an open mind and like lap up everything you can get and experience as much as you can get.
And I think that comes through when we heard Anna talking about her experiences at LYIT as well. It's kind of take every opportunity that's there and embrace everything that's in front of you, whether it's AI, whether it's machine learning, whether it's opportunities to take an internship or to jump on any opportunity. And one good thing, I suppose, about being a smaller institution is there are more opportunities.
Absolutely. And again, somebody else mentioned it earlier, is like the interaction with the staff. One of these young people were lecturing there, except for Thomas. Thomas lectured me when I was in LYT, but it was a really good, like it was definitely a situation where there were so few in the class, and afterwards you were speaking to your lecturers and you were chatting to them. I'm still in touch with so many of them. That definitely was such a bonus. Like there was no problem ever saying to somebody, you wouldn't just explain that to me again, and it was always done, no problem. Whereas I had friends and they were in Dublin studying, they were saying there were 200-300 in their year group, they didn't know anybody.
Yeah, and it's that sense of community that does set the likes of LYT's Department of Computing apart. And we're now going to go just to the 8 of us for a panel discussion. There's quite a few questions have come in, so I'm going to ask. I'll point or call you out even when it comes to some of the questions. So be ready, folks. One question that has come in, and Thomas, maybe you can give an idea, is like, what is the typical graduate starting salary in computing?
Probably around 30,000 in Donegal.
Okay.
I've heard of people in Donegal starting on 35,000 in the last 2 years. Cybersecurity is an absolute hot button item. Programming is another, if you pardon the term, programmers are like hen's teeth to find them. Significantly more if you're prepared to go to Dublin, but then you're probably not as well Dublin, even though you're getting paid extra. The top salary, the sky is the limit. I mean, if you follow the advice Porrick was giving you, which is try lots of things, and you follow the advice that Anna was giving you, which is take the opportunities to develop yourself as a person. Companies value that beyond measure. And for somebody who took those 2 pieces of advice to heart, I would say that there is almost no limit to what they could potentially do in their career.
Yeah. And in terms of then, another question that's come in is for you, Porrick. Did you always know that you wanted to go into a career in education?
No, definitely not. I think just having that opportunity to work in the industry in a couple of places opened my mind, and I suppose the chance to do education and computing together, I think that was really something that I liked, and it was because a couple of my friends were teachers, and they seemed to get this real satisfaction from their job, and I thought, well, that sounds nice, and if I could team that up with computing, that's just what happened.
Yeah, so it's almost progressive, really, in terms of your decision to move into education after having dipped your toe in quite a few sectors within the IT sector itself, like.
Oh, absolutely. And again, like it's just re-saying the same things. It's about getting that experience and seeing what part of it you like. And I happen to just love the education side of things.
Fantastic. And John, I'm coming to you, John McGarvey, not John C, John Mack. And a question that's come in is, do I need to be good at maths to succeed in computing? And that is a common enough question that comes up.
Well, we teach maths from kind of year one onwards, and I would say anyone coming in with past maths should be good enough. Like, there is a fair bit of maths in computing, but it's not unsurmountable in any way. If past maths coming in should be a good starting point. Yeah.
Yeah, and for students that are watching, that are incoming, know that we also, in terms of student supports, have the Maths Learning Centre at LYIT, so that's there for everybody. So if you are having any kind of fears or worries in relation to maths as you progress through any of the programmes, the MLC Centre is there for you. So that's a positive in terms of what we do. Another question that's come in is, and I'll ask this to you, Mandy, or in terms of programming, what types of programming will be explored at LYIT? So what could you expect in terms of programming?
Fiona, we offer a variation of different programming languages. As I said, there's Java would be the language that students would be doing from year one right through. Other languages we cover Python, SQL coding, Visual C# for mobile development, and there's lots more. So the options is really, they're really good, a good variation of different programming languages.
Okay, thank you. And Gary and John, a question that's been asked is, can you tell me some of the outside the classroom computing-based activities that you can do? So I know used to are very involved in like Vex Robotics as well, but there are other things that students get at LYT like Mass Digi, and can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, Mass Digi. It's interesting that you mentioned Mass Digi because I was in touch with the guys over there fairly recently. This is for the game students, and every year we send 2 of our students across to Boston to work for the summer creating computer games. It's a world-renowned program called Mass Digi, run out of Worcester, which is right beside Boston, and they take 25 students from across America. From Harvard and MIT and all of those fantastic institutions, and they group them all together, and they live in the dorms over there for the summer, and they all work together on creating a computer game. And we're lucky that they became aware of our computer games program, and they knew that it had a good reputation, and they invited 2 of our students over about 6 years ago, and they were so impressed with those 2 guys. They ended up being the lead programmers on their teams over there, and they were so impressed with them that they keep 2 spaces for us there every year. So we fly them out, we pay them a bit of money to get them started over there. Their accommodation is free. Their visa is paid for by LYIT, and they're given a stipend over there. And it really is a fantastic experience for those game students that are lucky enough to be able to go and do that.
That's amazing, John. And do students have to apply to LYIT or direct to Mass Digi for something like that?
No, it's through ourselves. We have our own internal selection process.
Wow.
Within Mass Digi itself, they tend to have hundreds of applicants for their 25 places, but they reserve 2 spaces for us, and we internally vet our students, and we tend to send 2 of our best students every year.
That's fantastic. And Gary, a bit about the Vex Robotics as well, and some of the work that's happening with schools as well, that students can actually support and get involved in, is that right?
Yeah, myself and John and a lot of the other lecturers in the department help out in the Vex Robotics Competition, which is a worldwide competition where students build a robot to take part in a competition that changes every year. We at LYIT lead out the regional finals for the Donegal sort of Ulster region. And the winners of that, so we have events for national school children, and then a competition for secondary school children, and there's a university level competition on its way out next year as well too. And we get our students to help out in those kind of things as well too. So students come out and help on the day. We've hundreds of children in on the day for the competition in our sports hall. It's a really busy day with national school children running excitedly through the halls, and our students help out and run in that event. We also do We also do a lot of work as well too with outreach, where we bring schools in to sort of give them an introduction to computing and show them around the campus, so they get a feel for the campus and get an idea of what university life is like and so on. We also do a lot of work with some of the big companies in locally here, Primerica and Ceta and Optum, and we also have good connections with Google and Amazon. A lot of our ex-students are up there in Amazon. We have Caroline Glacken, who does fantastic work with our sales. They come down every year. They fight to get a slot in LYIT each year. They do interviews on campus to try and snap up our graduates. And this is it. This is how big a demand our graduates are. The big hitters like Amazon take a day out to send their employees down. They send a full team down to do a tech talk and interview students on campus to get jobs with Amazon and Google. We've good connections with Damien Blake locally here in Letterkenny, who works with Google as well too. So we do a lot of work with industry like that with our students too.
Yeah, so those connections again with industry and big players in industry are fantastic for our own students as they prepare for graduation. Helena, a question that's come in Zoom, and I'm going to ask you, it relates to applied computing. And I know, folks, I'm conscious that we are over time, but I think it's a sign of all of the good conversations that have happened and are happening in the space in the Department of Computing. But for you, Helena, from an applied computing point, how many languages would you be expected to know well when graduating in order to look for a job?
I'll even tell you from my experience. If you know one language really well, it's easy to learn another. So I mean, you're like Amanda was saying earlier, you're going to start with Java. You're going to do it in the first semester and the second semester, and then you're going to be building on top of that. So if you have a really good grasp of one language, picking up another is nearly just semantics. So at least one, you're going to have lots of experience in lots of different languages, but you know one well, and then you're just building on what you've already known.
That's fantastic. Well, folks, that wraps up tonight's event. And for anybody who's maybe looking to find out more information, Thomas, they can contact you and in terms of connecting with you right the way up now until the 1st of July ahead of the CAO Change of Mind. Your contact email is thomas.dowling@lyit.ie, or feel free to contact myself, fiona.kelly@lyit.ie. So, folks, thanks so much for tuning in this evening. And we hope that you found tonight's session informative and hopefully helps you with your choices as you progress towards the Change of Mind deadline. So thank you so much, and we'll get one goodbye from all of the gang here on screen. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time. So all the best, folks, with the rest of your Leaving Cert cycle for those who maybe are doing the final few exams over the next few days. And we look forward to seeing you maybe around Offers Day on the 7th of September, where we'll be hosting our on-campus event on Friday, the 10th of September. Thank you for joining us tonight.